Hi, we're going to be taking a look at some everyday lessons we can learn from cybersecurity stories in the news this week. Here with Michael Stair. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Don.
Let's talk about this first story. This was about a SM bleed, an SMB vulnerability. First, for those who don't know, what is SMB?
Server message block. It's basically kind of one of the core protocols used by the Windows operating system for like file sharing, right? So if you mount, a remote disk, it's how it interfaces and is able to read files.
So this was a vulnerability with SMB. Tell me, what's the danger here? What can happen?
So yeah, this is a vulnerability in SMB, which again is a pretty established protocol, but it can range from crashing your computer to potentially a unauthenticated user taking remote access. And there's sort of a really good walkthrough in the story we go through about how they go from that simple crash to kind of the end, and they go deep into the protocol. But the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, actually rated this a 10. So they consider it pretty serious. There's lots of proof of concepts that show that it's possible. So it's a pretty serious issue that you need to make sure you're mitigated against.
So how do you protect yourself from this vulnerability?
So, like most or all, Windows-based vulnerabilities, it's always recommended to have the latest patches, right? Security patches from Microsoft. You can block, port 445. If you don't need SMB, there's maybe a way you can disable SMB. Certainly that's something that likely the ladder to your network administrator will probably take care of. But kind of all Windows vulnerabilities, we recommend making sure you're staying patched.
We also discussed ECAN's ransomware. Tell me how this ransomware works.
So this one's a little unique in that it targets these industrial control systems, these ICS systems. So, think about things like power plants or nuclear plants. So it's very targeted, to take advantage of some of the nuances in these industrial control systems. But effectively, it's a pretty simple, immature at this point ransomware. It's still a little unclear how it makes its way into these kind of these systems. There's speculation that gets there, some exposed internet exposed resource, but it effectively will target a computer and then move laterally. Ransomware, so it's encrypting your data. It looks to encrypt backups, even destroy some backups. So definitely a ransomware to certainly if you're in the industrial control system. Silo that you want to keep an eye on.
And how do you protect yourself from it?
Same thing, like usual, make sure you're patched. In this scenario, again, most times if you have a, operational technology, OT system like this, you want to limit, any exposure to the internet, certainly things like remote desktop protocol. So just make sure that you're protected. You have, proper defense in depth, proper firewall, and not have any of your resources unnecessarily exposed to the internet.
We also talked about a story about malware getting into Docker images. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, so Docker is becoming popular, right? This sort of platform as a service, virtualized environment you can easily run software in. It's being used across the enterprise, out in the cloud. And we're starting to see these Docker images, which are hosted on these public websites that include malicious software. So in this case, it was a coin miner. There was, a lot of users downloaded it. They were able to track a good amount of money that was mined from it back into someone's wallet. So it's an emerging kind of a new technique, taking advantage of a newer technology to again spread malicious software.
And how do you prevent yourself from becoming a victim of it?
So kind of best practice here is kind of use trusted sources, right? So certainly you need to know what images you're using. You may not want to use an image that is just published by some random user. There are tools now that will do scanning of container registries, container images. So just make sure you know where you're getting images from, or if you're building them, where all the different sources are, to make sure that you're protected from using these potentially dangerous images.
Thank you for all that great advice, Michael. Thank you all for watching. If you want to learn more about any of these stories or these topics, please click on the links below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.